Hello folks, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you're not, welcome back. This is a cozy corner of YouTube where I post about all things whittling, specifically whittling for beginners and in small spaces. If you're new to whittling or carving, chances are you have already nicked yourself or are about to. Today I'm sharing the most important carving safety tips that I wish I followed when I first started. So you can keep all 10 fingers and actually enjoy the craft. No fear, just good habits and safe techniques. The foundation of our talk today is to consider things like where the blade is in space and also where the blade could go. So those are the two things we want to think about kind of at all times. Tip number one is to carve away from your body when you can. So never carve toward your palm, toward your thigh, your stomach, towards another part of your hand. So if the knife slips, where will it go? A good beginner mantra is to assume the knife will slip. Maybe that's not for beginners, maybe that's for everybody. Now there are times, for example, like with a paring cut, that you will be carving towards a part of your body, right? So carving toward your thumb. If you're not sure what a paring cut is, feel free to watch my previous video on the 4 basic cuts. I'll link that down below. Something you can do to do that safely, I talk about this in the video, but you can move your body out of the way of the blade, like so. You can also use like a thumb guard or a wrap, and we'll talk about those towards the end of this video. You can use small controlled slices to make that a little safer. So something I wouldn't do a paring cut like this because the blade could go towards my thumb. Move that off to the side, and then that way if the blade slips, totally misses an important part of my body. Great, so that's tip one, is to carve away from your body, not towards your body. Tip two is that sharp tools are safer. So dull knives require more force to get through material. More force equals a higher risk for loss of control. So most carving injuries happen when a tool slips. In addition, if you're working, so this is like a piece of basswood, it's pretty consistent, the texture throughout the wood. It's pretty soft too, so it's great beginner crafting wood. But if you're working with green wood, like that you find on a hike or something, you're working through like a log and making something with that, or like a branch rather, you could have variations in the density of the wood. So some parts might require more force to get through, especially knots, etc. If you put more force under, like on a denser section of the wood, there could be a softer section just behind that. You could lose control of the knife because of that amount of pressure you're getting through and the changes in wood density, and risk an injury or a slip. So a sharp knife could, it goes where you tell it to go. Good idea to stroke your knife maybe every 15-20 minutes or so. When you're in a project, you don't need it to be scary razor sharp, just consistently sharp. That way you don't have to put so much force behind the knife. If you need a recommendation for a nice budget-friendly leather strop, check out my unboxing video just posted on the Beavercraft leather paddle strop, link below. Or you can get something just like you have a spare belt or a piece of leather lying around. You don't need something super fancy. This one is just like a piece of leather from Horrell, but you can put some compound on there, and then just every couple of minutes during your project, go ahead and strop the knife. That'll keep it really razor sharp. That's really all you need to do to keep that factory edge on your knife. Let me know in the comments if you want a video on how to strop or if there's enough of those out there on YouTube, I can show you my technique. We can go from there. So, yep. Tip 2, sharp tools are safer. Tip 3, really you've got, most folks, you've got two hands, right? So control the wood, not just the knife. You have, make sure that you want to have a secure grip on the wood if you are holding it. Otherwise, I know that some folks like to put this in like a vise or like a clamp onto their workbench. That's okay too. So the wood should feel locked in, right? It's not gonna slip or something like that. So I usually have like a finger here, and that way I know for sure, and I have my arm kind of like anchored against my desk. That way I know that this isn't gonna move. You can also like I said, rest the wood against different parts. So rest the wood against a workbench. This is up here, something stable. You can rest it up against your chest if you have a chest, especially if you have a chest protector. Most people focus on the knife and forget that the wood hand could be, or the wood in the wood hand could be moving too if you're not holding it securely. That can cause slips too, so just want to be careful with that. The next tip is to wear a physical barrier. So to wear a carving glove, at least on one hand. You can wear it on both too. I don't have any here because I don't typically wear the gloves. You can also use finger wraps as needed. So there's a variety online of cut resistant gloves that you can wear to help protect yourself. There's also this cut resistant tape. This is what I like to use. For me, I had trouble with the glove. I had trouble gripping the wood with the glove and feeling kind of like the thickness, especially with things like spoons, to say like, okay, well, how much thicker or how much more do I need to go through and stuff like that. My hands would also get really sweaty, so the tape works best for my needs, but my needs are different than your needs, right? So with the cut resistant tape, so I got this as a 6-pack from Beavercraft online. It's about $15, but I'm sure you can find cheaper ones for sure. So I'll give you an example of just how I wrap my thumb, for example. So I'll start up here, I'll go down and around. Awesome. And then I'll do that one more time. So I'll go back up, down, and around. Okay. Kind of push down the spots that you don't want to be sticking up. And then this just tears and it kind of sticks to itself, so you don't need extra tape or anything like that. All right. So that's what we got there with that cut resistant tape. You can reuse these, which is great, and just change them out over time if they get worn. So these are just kind of my grab and goes. I put one over on my finger. I usually do like my index finger, both my thumbs, but totally, what you need might be up to you and with that different project. You might need the full glove. I've definitely nicked this part of my hand before because I was not paying attention. Tell me what I would really love to hear what were your worst nicks and cuts. Let me know down in the comment section. This was my worst nick. Was I nicked this part of my hand here, and I was numb from here to here for maybe like 9 months while those nerves grew back. So definitely don't want that. I wish I started with like a full glove probably, but I didn't know. I didn't read or watch any of these safety videos before I started. And I didn't really know any good technique before I got into whittling YouTube and reading books and things like that about whittling safely. So anyway, I really like the tape here. You can reuse them until they get until they get nicked up, essentially, or if they get worn down, then you can just make a new one. pop right off, just like that, and then you can reuse those as needed. I guess the key takeaway here with the tape is that they are cut resistant. They're not cut proof. So a glove or the tape, it doesn't replace safe technique, but it can buy you forgiveness. So it can help kind of shear away those little tiny nicks and cuts, but it's a little more forgiving in that sense. The next tip here is to carve when you're focused. So whittling, it can be really relaxing and something that you do to unwind and express creativity. But try not to carve when you're tired, when you're rushed, angry, or distracted. If take breaks if you need them. It really is not a skill. I see some people who they can craft or color or crochet and do things like they can watch TV or something like that. It's really like one that needs your focus and attention while you're doing this, so that you're aware really of where your knife is and everywhere in relation to your body and where the knife could go, really at all times. So it's not one for me that I can throw a show on that I need to, if there's a show with subtitles, it's not one that I'm going to be watching in the background while I'm whittling. Might be one that I throw an audiobook on or something like that instead. But definitely, especially when we're new, we want to try to focus if we can. It's also the nice thing about whittling is to be able to draw your focus away from those things and into something physical. So if you need time away from screen time, whittling is a great project. But yeah, tip: carve when you're focused. We've got two more tips here. The second to last one is to respect the grain direction. So cutting with versus against the grain can affect safety. Going against the grain, it can cause you to put more pressure on the knife, and then you can have changes in the grain or the wood texture, which when mixed with more pressure on your knife can cause things like slips and accidents. So you want to be really careful there. Going with the grain can result in smoother cuts, safer cuts. So for a beginner, for beginner safety advice, if the knife suddenly digs in, stop and change direction. So either change direction with the, flip the wood, or if you were carving out this way, you can try changing the direction of your knife, something like that. So respect the grain direction. My last tip is probably, not rocket science here, right? As a beginner, though, it's totally okay to use softer woods like basswood, birch, etc., and work on simple projects, right? Things like mushrooms, spoons, animals, smaller things, things that don't require a huge setup of really big sharp knife, things like that to get through. So starting with like simple crafting wood is totally okay. I would avoid hardwoods at first. You can check out my previous video on the book Wood Identification and Use if you want a great reference for different types of woods. I'll link that video down in the description below too. But yeah, starting with a softer wood and kind of like a more simple project until you really get the hang of things can be very helpful. All right, I whittle because I find it relaxing and enjoyable. Really helps me to unwind, emotionally regulate, and work out tough problems in my mind while letting me express myself and my creativity in a way that produces something useful. Like this will be a pocket spoon soon. If you build safe habits early on, you'll be able to enjoy this craft for years to come without the scars to prove it, without numbness in your hands over time. And I hope that this video helped to set that safe kind of foundation for you. If you found this helpful or enjoyable at all, feel free to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when I post new videos. Feel free to comment. Do you have a favorite wood that you like to use? What was your worst or first carving injury? Do you have a different setup as far as safety goes? I would love to hear all of that from y'all. Folks, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.